Today we are here at the COP30 and are welcoming Fernando Gabeira, the most known journalist in Brazil and the environmental voice. You are a former congressman, author, and you are a human rights advocate, and you are protecting the Amazonian people. So what are your impressions on the conference so far?
Well, those conferences are very difficult to define because they are a place where you have very difficult negotiations and the results don't appear very easily. So we have to wait until the end in order to see which kind of progress we have made. I think that by the fact that we're doing that in the Amazon, we got some advancements in the forest defense. We built a fund in order to finance all the protection of the tropical forests, not only here in the Amazon, but in Congo and Indonesia as well.
How do you observe the progression of the natural disasters in Brazil in the last years?
We still have many natural disasters, and some of the most important disasters happen in the mining field. And today, especially today, we had a decision of the British justice condemning a Brazilian enterprise that was responsible for a big disaster in the state of Minas Gerais. And I think that we have to change the law and we have to protect the people that is living near those places where they're exploiting minerals.
What is the role of the media in facing this climate challenge? Because the progression of natural disasters is much faster than the policies are implemented.
Well, the role of the media is very important because the media is responsible for denouncing the big problem that we find. But not only denouncing, but follow all the providence that the authorities take and must take. I think that they have to interpret as well all the problems of them. And the media has to associate itself with science because today the media alone is not capable to define the situation of the environment. I think that the association very near with science is going to give us a new capacity to follow the problem.
Maybe you can say something to the role of the science. How do you see it?
Yes, I think that the science is definitely very important because without science we did not have this conference here. It is the work of dozens of scientists in the whole world that gave us the notion of the urgency of the problem. So I think that your work as well with nanoplastic is very important as well because it is associated with scientific research and very important in the world today because, we have a very bad and heavy epidemic some years ago. And we unfortunately expect other epidemics. And these new epidemics, as the old one, tend to touch the lungs. And we have to have healthy lungs. And this presence of nanoplastic in the atmosphere does allow us to have as healthy lungs as we should have. So it's very important. Besides, you have the problem of the sea. We try to examine a dead fish. We found a big portion of plastic. And this existence of plastic in the fish means that it's transferring for the stomach of the human being as well.
And what do you think what people can do to unite their voice, to raise this public awareness and to face this reality together?
The governments are not able to tackle the problem. We depend very much on the population. We depend very much on the people, on the fabrics, on the transport enterprise. We depend very much from each person. So I think that each person is very important in this kind of struggle.
Thank you.
I am Dr. Tijani Al-Badawi. I am a disaster risk geoscientist from Nigeria. So I work with the National Emergency Management Agency in Nigeria. So it's called NEMA. So NEMA is saddled with the responsibility of managing disasters and the disasters fallout in Nigeria. So basically the response, preparation, and kind of building resilience down to the community levels. So that is all we did.
Okay, this is interesting. And what kind of unusual climate disasters have happened in Nigeria this year? And what initiatives did the government take to combat it?
Okay, so most of our recurring disasters are basically climate-related disasters. So you have the chief of which is the flood. So we have flood in virtually almost all the states in Nigeria. So every year we go out, we do what we call the SCP, Seasonal Climate Prediction, with our partners and the annual flooding outbreak. So we map the country into states that have high risk, medium risk, and low risk. And so we go out to advocate some of the measures that communities need to take, stakeholders, partners, governments at the state and the local levels, what they need to do in preparation to that. So this is part of what we do. And recently, in alignment with the global shift towards building resilience, we are advocating for a shift to mainstreaming or rather institutionalization of resilience, across sectors, across our platforms, rather than focusing on funding the disasters themselves or funding the response to disasters. So we want to fund more of the resilience. So basically, that is where the government's attention is going towards. We've recently launched strategies, plans, and frameworks that assist the government and its stakeholders in achieving that.
Okay. And Mr. Tijani, for you personally, what inspires you the most in your work?
So my line of work is what it deals with directly with the people and seeing firsthand what happens to people if infrastructure fails as a result of disasters. How communities are directly affected, how people lose their livelihoods, how in some cases some communities become isolated, as a result of some of these disasters. So for me, it's beyond just a work. It's beyond just a profession. It's a calling, so to speak, because incidentally, my background also as a geoscientist allows me to understand some of these things from a scientific perspective and profile solutions. So I think I'm where I was supposed to be.
Okay, this is amazing. And some people might think, what's dangerous about the flood? That's just word. You get dry and that's it, So can you share a bit more details? What are the dangers of the flood?
Okay, so because some of these things happen unannounced, you can to some extent predict disasters, but you cannot completely prevent them from happening. So for flood, for example, there are a lot of cross-cutting issues. So you look at the immediate impact, of course, is damage to properties. In some cases, houses, get completely destroyed. Some cases, the water level is above the roof of the houses. So you see a direct relationship on livelihood. People lose their livelihood, their food stock. If you have farmlands, sometimes it washes away the farmlands. It cuts away some of the goats, the sheep, the cows, and all of that. But we also see the impact on health. So for example, the flooding waters come with all sorts of contaminants. You know, it washes away landfills. Sometimes you find some of these sewage tanks, what we call the suckaway septic tanks, being emptied by the flood water, and then it just keeps moving around. So you find most of the locations or most of the areas in Nigeria that are prone to flooding have a geology that is topsoil is porous. So within a few days, you find some of the waters, percolating with these contaminants and then contaminating the aquifers, the groundwater aquifers. So there's a lot of cross-cutting issues around environment, health, and livelihood. So it's not just water and then it goes away. No, it affects all of society, the ecosystem.
Thank you, Mr. Tijani, for clarifying. And a few final questions. What are your impressions of COP30 Brazil for this 4 days, and what results do you expect?
Yeah, so for most of what we do at NEMA is adaptation. Most of the expectations of most of the things that are advocated are things that we already do as an agency. So it's interesting to see some of the discussions, talking about building resilience, carrying along the communities engagement in decision making and all of that. It's really interesting. And so some of the takeaways I would like to see is, so apart from the technical expertise or technical depth, I would like to see collaboration across board as well. So, parties not reinventing the wheel, but learning from elsewhere. There are places that have experienced some disasters or some fallout as a result of climate-related disasters that have been managed very well. So these are learning lessons learned or learning curves that others can follow. So without reinventing the wheel, so sharing some of these experiences through collaborations, capacity buildings, partnerships, learning visits and what have you. These are some things I'd like to see.
Okay, thank you. And the final question is, you pretty much already started talking about this, but what's the importance of this international collaboration and informing people towards the solutions to the natural disasters and climate anomalies?
Well, yes, collaboration is very important. You find that through collaborations, things that appear difficult, like I've said, someone has already done it, maybe 10 years ago. They just share that experience, share some of the tools they use, share the outcomes, and the cross-cutting, facets, the sectors that have been affected or the sectors that need to be taken into consideration and all of that. So collaboration is really key. Partnership is the backbone of development. You bring learning experience, expertise from elsewhere without reinventing the wheel. And you find that in most cases, some countries have oversupply of, say, commodity A, just as an example. And this country has none of it,
yes,
and they're willing to give, sometimes even freely. So that exchange is critical. And I think that is why we are all here today, this week and next week in Brazil, to kind of, pursue some of these things. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Hello, so first of all, welcome to Azerbaijan Pavilion. My name is Fatima Fatalieva. I'm the manager of the Azerbaijan Pavilion, which is located in the Blue Zone at COP30. My main mission today here was the development of the content, development of design of this pavilion, and also I was doing the same job last year at COP29. Main idea of the pavilion is called the Hall of Legacy, based on the idea of last year's pavilion, which was the House of Solidarity. So this year we are giving our presidency to Brazil. That's why we call it as a hall, and you can see a lot of walls here. And legacy has two meanings. First of all, the legacy that is doing what was done by Azerbaijan after COP29, what COP29 brought to us, and the legacy in terms of our cultural heritage. because as you can see, a lot of moments and a lot of design moments in this pavilion is about our culture. A lot of Azerbaijani national elements are here represented. Our carpets, we are also showcasing our hospitality by providing participants with some tea, Azerbaijani national tea. The whole content of the pavilion is about the COP29 legacy. As you can see, they are also showcasing the COP29 presidency initiatives, which are covering a lot of topics. We are showcasing here Azerbaijani flagship initiatives, what the government is doing in terms of climate change, in terms of sustainable development. We have a lot of ambition and targets. So we have a huge delegation here today in Belém.
What are your expectations? What results do you expect after the COP30? And what are your impressions of these 4 days of being here?
Previous host country, we have a lot of participants and a lot of visitors to our pavilion. A lot of people are asking what Azerbaijan has done and what is the legacy after COP29 for us. We have, for example, an exhibition here which is about Baku as a green transportation hub, because Baku has a target to become fully electric by 2030. We have a zone which is called the Karabakh region, which is target to be fully net zero. We have conference room here. We have a lot of interesting programming events here. So my total impression that still we are not the host country, but a lot of people are interested. A lot of people are asking about Azerbaijan legacy after COP29. As everyone here, we hope to have a better world for everyone else. So we are here to try and to work hard on this.
Okay, thank you so much. The last question, for you personally, what inspires you the most in your work?
My main inspiration, first of all, is people, and I work for the people, and I think that you have to work hard to everything comes in a teamwork. So if everyone puts a small impact, we can try to be a better world. So my main inspiration is to call for action, to teach people so that people are more interested, to raise awareness. Only by this, I think the world can change.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm here at COP30, meeting others within the health sector and also helping to form multidisciplinary partnerships for the Canadian Association of Pharmacy for the Environment and looking for opportunities, basically just to come together.
And what are your expectations of COP30 so far?
So the great thing so far is that the role of the healthcare sector is starting to really play more of a central role. Specifically, we are now saying, for example, that fossil fuels are the new tobacco. My expectations at COP right now is to really see this multidisciplinary strengthening of the healthcare sector within planetary health and climate change, and look at various opportunities from a funding perspective, both on the climate mitigation side as well as the climate adaptation side. It would be really, really good also to be able to see the covering of the health within wider policy.
And in your view, how important is global collaboration and human awareness in addressing climate challenges we face?
Yeah, it's enormously important. There are a lot of people still that don't understand the urgency of the climate crisis. And I think that the health sector can provide a really good role here. People might just think of the climate crisis as an abstract issue, but when you start thinking that, it can actually affect cardiovascular disease, or it can affect mental health, or it can affect access to medications, suddenly it becomes much more concrete in one's individual life. So I really do think that global collaboration is quite important in this area, more broadly, but also within the healthcare sector specifically.
And how do you think human awareness on the climate challenges, how it can change the progress of action? How can we raise this awareness? And
So I'm a little biased here, but I do think that the healthcare sector can provide a really good role here. So as pharmacy professionals, for example, there are pharmacies open in every country, and they're extremely accessible healthcare providers. So we provide information, for example, with the Canadian Association of Pharmacy for the Environment, in collaboration with groups like the Canadian Pharmacy Association, the Canadian Society of Hospital Pharmacists, to really educate pharmacists on how to talk to the public with regards to looking at, emission reduction and also climate awareness with regards to climate adaptation. So thinking about emergency preparedness and also thinking about things like reducing drug waste and reducing emissions as well. So again, I think that the healthcare sector can provide a really good role here to say that, look, the climate crisis is actually affecting clinical outcomes. And what we want to do is be able to advance clinical outcomes. And by addressing the climate crisis, we can actually take care of our patients much more better. And through that, I think this type of multidisciplinary connection can really be helpful in terms of talking to the public as well.
And what motivates you personally to work for climate-related projects?
Sure. So I've been a pharmacist for 15 years. And I've only been involved in planetary health and climate change related work for about 5 years. Before that, I was involved in global health, and I was doing a lot of work, for example, with Pharmacists Without Borders Canada. And I started seeing the impact of emissions to global health and started thinking that, I'm in Canada. Canada has quite a high emissions per capita, and it is impacting global health. So I kind of did a little bit of a pivot because it felt like a sense of responsibility as a healthcare provider to take care of my patients in order to planetary health and climate change much more seriously. In addition, about 7 or so years ago, I was going through my own health crisis. So I went through cancer and went through cancer treatment. I'm in remission and have been so for a long time. But during that time, in my first week of treatment, Ottawa, my own city of Ottawa, was affected by several tornadoes. And I was thinking, is this going to impact my ability to access treatment? Is this going to impact my life expectancy? And I think an example like that makes things much more concrete in the fact that this is not a future issue. This is not just a nice to have issue. This issue is here and now and applicable for all of the different countries involved.
Thank you so much. You do a really good job. Nice. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, it's really nice to meet you here today at COP30 in Belém, Brazil. Can you please introduce yourself and your organizations?
Yes, my name is Nawaz, and I'm the Global Strategy and Engagement Director of an initiative called 195 in 365. What that is about is really picking up the power of the youth, mobilizing them. And so what we will do as part of this initiative is take 195 youth, that's one from every country around the world, on a convoy to visit every country in the space of a year. Now, in that journey, we will hold many COPs in every location. Every country has different problems, different solutions, and so we want to highlight those and really to unify a lot of the global youth behind this initiative, because one thing that we are lacking, I suppose, with all the good work that youth and indeed the NGOs are doing, they're not united necessarily, and they don't have consistent unity, visibility and unity. And I think if we have that, I think the people's voice, especially the youth, will be far stronger. So we are here now to engage with the youth organizations. So for example, we presented at COI, which is Conference of Youth, just at the very start or just before COP, to give them that and to make them aware that we're here and to start putting in the measures to really make the movement expand and get the legs that it needs. But we are actually government backs. So this is an initiative led from Grenada. We have a number of campaigns lined up. We have music campaigns where a song has just been released on our slogan, Be the Change. We have a football campaign being lined up with football clubs and authorities around the world trying to back this up. We have engagements with corporations. And so over the next 6 months or so, before we start the journey, what we're doing is we're building the foundations. And part of that process is letting relief know that they're here and what they could do to apply to be one of those people representing their country.
Can you please also share your impressions of COP30 so far?
But interestingly also, I think we're coming to learn more and more about things that haven't been discussed before, or not nearly as much. So there's much more focus on, for example, the impacts of climate change and global health, for example. There's a bit more talk about the sort of nature restoration aspect, although that's left to another COP by and large, which doesn't really make sense to think, oh, well, we're saying here, well, look, all these things are interlinked. So why do we have discussions in different forms when, we must have a holistic systems thinking approach to solving climate change?
How important it is on the global level to have these scientific collaborations?
But it's crucial. I mean, I was at a pavilion, which was, I think, called Science for Climate Action, where they indeed were talking about the need for lots of scientific institutions and scientists to work much closer together. Because I think that there are gaps as a result of that not happening. But also there's gaps from an interdisciplinary approach too. So the impacts that we have, so scientific studies done on, for example, plastics, how that is relevant to, phytoplankton productivity or human health or other aspects. All these things are truly connected, but are we having the discussions at the right level with full integration, cooperation to the degree that we need to solve the problem? No, we aren't. And so therefore we do absolutely need to break the silos. We need to encourage a lot more collaborating as now. So yeah, there's a huge gap that needs to be filled. Without that, I think many of our crucial problems that may appear hidden will remain.
Yes, and we really need to address all of these issues, and especially the participants and scientists and experts from ALLATRA Global Resource Center. We are investigating the issue of micro and nanoplastics. We've seen that it's already affecting a lot of areas of our life, our health. It's affecting ocean. And can you please tell us your comments on this issue and maybe ideas how we can really solve it, how we can collaborate?
I think the first thing is there really has to be much more awareness of the issue. When people realize the impacts of these plastics of various sizes are actually so detriment to every single person. I don't think that awareness exists. I think the study's done saying that there's enough potentially plastic in people's brains that come into the size of a plastic teaspoon. The impact that could have on your entire system. I think if they find out the facts, they would certainly push there, whether it's the local government or national government, the company they work for, who perhaps deal with plastics, anybody who can address this issue, they would push much further, but many people aren't aware.
Share your understandings or your ideas, how we can do that effectively.
I think we have to get a little more creative. The general public, they may not even know about climate change, or in fact, they may have been told it's a hoax, in some parts of the world. So we need good fact-based storytelling, but we do need to simplify it. And we need visuals as well. So we have to get creative about that. So telling simple stories to say, did you know that you know, like we've given the spoon idea in a ray, a spoonful of plastic, or you know, that analogy, and actually make a story for it and let them see how detrimental that is. And that's only one example, but I think we have to get creative with it. And I think the youth are very good at doing that. Hence the reason the 195 initiative is, I think, could be game changing. The stories they tell, how quickly they spread them, how engaged youth are in terms of discussing these matters is way beyond anyone else in civil society. So if that's the catalyst to then make the change, then that's something, that's the golden nugget we've got to get behind. As a closing remark, I would say, frankly, we have, you know, reached 7 out of a 9 tipping points. We know where we're heading, and it's not necessarily a good place. We know we're working in silos, there's lots of gaps in technology, gaps in knowledge, but we do know enough to turn this around. And I would say we are almost at the last stages of having the chance to turn this around. If we delay any farther, it's going to get almost impossible. I mean, 7 out of 9 tipping points, I mean, they are, you know, they're really out of reach. I mean, technically, yes, there are ways to turn that around if you have all these integrated solutions, and thinking that, practically speaking, you know, they're almost impossible, I think. And I'm not trying to be negative, I'm trying to say that it's imperative to have a chance of having a truly sustainable future, and a just one, of course. It's got to be now. And, you know, in 1992 at the Earth Summit, this is in Brazil, this is where the alarm bells were rung on climate change. And then the COP process started a little while after. And coming back to Brazil, I would say this has got to be the place now where we've got to just do the job, get it done. There is no other chance.
For the first time, the United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP30, is taking place in the heart of the Amazon, the world's largest rainforest, and often described as the lungs of the Earth. In this unique setting, participants of the ALLATRA International Public Movement met with representatives of Brazil's indigenous peoples. Here, where nature still speaks in its original voice, the warning about profound climatic shifts becomes especially clear. In this video, we share their words, an honest, direct, and vital call to the world to face the truth about the state of our planet and to unite in its defense.
We have already met in summer at SB62, and we are so happy to meet you again today here at the COP30. Could you please introduce yourself?
I am Adriana Kayani. I am an indigenous woman from northeastern Brazil. I represent the Caatinga biome. My people are the Sukuru of Ororuba. We are part of the ministry.
I am Tupinamba. I am from the Tupinamba people of Olivença. I live in Brazil, in Bahia. I live in an indigenous village, and I am part of a federal government program called Contar e Catu, which is indigenous leaders in global politics. And I represent, in fact, the voice of my people. Right. And I bring territorial demarcation as mitigation and as climate justice, because there is no climate justice if indigenous territories are not demarcated. Right? Because there is no environmental protection. If we do not have full access to the rights that we have, our territory is our protection in the villages.
What is the main focus of your work, and what brings you today here to the conference COP30?
I hope that with this COP taking place in Brazil, on indigenous land, because Pará is indigenous territory in Brazil, it becomes a moment for the world to understand how we, indigenous peoples, not only here in Brazil but everywhere, love Mother Earth. Here in Brazil, and I believe in other territories as well, Indigenous peoples fight for nature so that everyone can have access to Mother Earth. Here we live through a process of reclaiming our lands. Our leaders are murdered and they lose their lives defending our land, a land that was taken from us back in 1500. For us, the land is sacred. She is our mother. The seas and the rivers are also our mother of water. It is through the land that we survive. She gives us food. She gives us the water that quenches our thirst. So the earth, besides being our mother and protecting us, allowing us to continue existing here, is something we defend with our own lives. Because if the earth does not exist, then we do not exist either. This is our love as Indigenous peoples for Mother Earth. I believe that having COP in Brazil is a chance for the world to understand that we, Indigenous peoples, hold the key to preserving life. We reforest, and we know how to do it. Even with all the losses caused by capitalism, we still manage to restore the forest. We manage to protect the land because we love the land, and we understand that if the earth dies, we die with her. If the rivers dry up, we will not survive. We will have no water and no way to keep the plants alive. Therefore, it is essential that the universe and all of humanity learns to view Mother Earth through an Indigenous lens. She is our mother.
So the federal government, together with the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples, the Kuntarikatu, and the Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change, has been carrying out work that for the first time ever has brought a very large Indigenous presence here. More than 3,000 Indigenous people are participating in COP30, so we can bring the voice of our people to the world. Each representative plays a role. There are 33 global leaders, and each one brings their own focus: mitigation, adaptation, loss and damage, climate justice, financing, among others. In my case, I brought territorial demarcation as both mitigation and climate justice. And I also want to make it very clear that this issue of climate change and the fight against climate change is not only an Indigenous responsibility. In truth, it belongs to all of us, because we all have the right and the duty to protect the environment.
What do you expect as a result of this conference, COP30?
First, I want Indigenous peoples to be heard. Right? When COP30 ends, I hope the world will hear our cry and give us direct access to funding so we can develop our own projects, move forward, and keep fighting for the protection of the environment. And we need to remember that this protection is not only for Indigenous peoples, it is for everyone. I hope there will be the demarcation of our lands, of our territories. I hope the world understands that we need environmental protection, and we need to stop mining. We need to stop oil extraction. We need to stop all of this. We need to stop the devastation and truly confront climate change. And we need all governments and all parties to support Indigenous territories and Indigenous peoples.
What do you think how important it is, the global cooperation in facing this challenge, the progression of the natural disasters and the public awareness?
Indigenous peoples are known for something. We are recognized for our unity, for our partnerships, for coming together, you know, and for standing side by side in the struggle for a cause, for many causes. So I hope the world understands that we need to unite. Together, we can build genuine partnerships, stand united, and protect the environment collectively.
Obrigado. Thank you so much.